Good evening. Yeah. My father, Shiva, and all of you who came out here tonight to be there and to join with us. Go with that. Okay, we'll try like that. What?
We can't pay for that.
Oh boy, can't come from the fund. Discretionary funds. In any case, I want to just start off. My father, probably throughout every schmooze, every speech he gave in his life, growing up, you could all imagine which yeshiva I went to, every schmooze had inside of it the following words, and that was, Hakar Satov is elementary. And anyone here who's been in yeshiva knows that. So I'm going to try to give a little bit of a report, not too long, of what's going on in the ground, what it's been like, and to give you a little feel, a little picture of what we've been dealing with. Before I do, I'm going to jump right into it by giving a Hakar Satov. Yesterday was Sunday. Many of you, I'm sure, spend time with your families, enjoyed your days off, and did what families do on a Sunday. Yesterday was obviously right in the midst of what we're going through, very, very difficult times. I'm not going to embarrass them, but I called a couple of people and I said, we need help. Yes, there's clothing pouring in, and I'll run through some specifics a little bit in a few minutes. But we needed yesterday one tremendous need. We needed people. People to come. As you heard, there's so much to be thrown out. People who are physically unable. I got one phone call. There was someone on the corner. I'll give you real names, real streets. If you know the area, right across from Tag, London Avenue. A 75-year-old gentleman, many people know him. A Talmud of Aaron. He's sitting there by himself and dragging out a bookcase full of svarim, dragging out a dryer. Please, we need help. But it gets a lot worse than that. There were homes literally drowned and buried and destroyed, schmutz you can't even begin to imagine. So I called along Goldberger, many of you know from Queens, I'm not going to embarrass him further. I said, what are we going to do? He said, I'll get you some volunteers. Called Nachem Yahach, this one, that one, no problem. I don't know all their names, but truthfully, every single one of them, here I am, right? Baruch B, Achiezer, give them all the thanks. It's not. These people, it's not glorious what they did, but they deserve so much of our appreciation and our so they came down to the area and they said, what can we do? I'm sure they thought they'll be handing out food, setting up clothing, fun stuff, right? They went to Shayashiv, we all got together. They were given an address, they put on masks, they put on gloves, and they went and literally dug people out of their homes. You can ask them, homes that were destroyed. They'll forgive me, sewage in homes, and they went and they dug in hours and hours. I asked them at the end of the day. They were beat an entire full day. So many of you sitting here in this crowd, cleaned out yesterday 85 homes. All day, sweating, physical labor, and very unglorious work. And we, as a community, the Rockaway, Bayswater, and 5 towns, owe all these Queens residents a tremendous, tremendous appreciation for your dedication. And like I said again, non-glorious, not in the spotlight, and we couldn't have done it without you, and we thank you profusely. It's a very humbling experience. I'm not here to talk about our organization, but we deal with all sorts of various things that come up. Many of the medical, mental health, crisis, whatever it is. We're not a hurricane command center. That's not what our mission statement was. And we're dealing with people all of a sudden, like I like to call them regular Joes like you and I, who in an instant, yes, they heard the forecast, the storm's going to come, and nobody can possibly picture what kind of devastation was going to come upon these families. And the storm came, and they were literally destroyed. I'm not telling everyone how to spend your schedules for the rest of the week. You have to see it to believe it, almost in a sense. When you walk through the streets of Rockaway, walk through the streets of those who know the area, to give you facts, down the left side of Peninsula Boulevard, near the Young Israel Woodmere, the Cedar Bay Park, homes that were completely destroyed, and these people have lost every single one of their belongings. These people were put into a position all of a sudden where they have to ask for help. And none of us should ever be having the sign of having to ask for help. And even though it was natural, and you can come up with every reason, it's a very difficult thing to do. I'm not going to lecture about that. Those of you who hold no insensitivity, whoever had to do it, it's not fun. And they're doing it, and we're doing our best to see what we can. in the most dignified way, to be there for them in the tachlitic, in the real ways that can actually help them, little by little, try to get back on their feet. It's just so very difficult. So we've started all sorts of different programs. I'm going to go through a few of them, and maybe by a couple of them I will highlight what can be done. I was reminded here tonight, I was called on the way, I said, Baruch B, they want to hear how we can help. And obviously, my father Shlita mentioned ways they can help, and primarily the money that's needed for families to try. Make a dent was the word he used. And the Rav mentioned our ability meal. And Rabbi Boruch will end off and discuss it. But yes, there are other physical ways to help. I'm not going to reiterate what was said. Clothing, I probably wouldn't have thought I would say this a few days ago, but you can begin to imagine, not about the not nice part of it. It is so beautiful to walk into Shari Yashiv, those of you who know the yeshiva, and there are racks and racks of brand new, beautiful clothing, every size. Families are coming in, no questions asked. Come, take whatever you need. The ladies who are running it, I understand, to my knowledge, I was told now, some of them were from the Queens area as well, came to volunteer today, and they said, Baruch B, not enough people are coming. Let's offer transportation to the rides. And I stood back, and I was thinking, all right, I can't come to get the clothing. There were hundreds of cars. People don't have cars. 1, 2, 3. Well, every single block, the cars they can't get there. So today we added that as a service. You want to come get this clothing? We'll come pick you up. We'll come get you. And people were picked up and brought to the location. But the amount of clothing that came in is just staggering. People were going from Cincinnati, Silver Spring, Queens. I mean, we had people from across the country. A lady called today. It's beautiful. I have a tractor trailer of clothing. We're sending it in. It's beautiful. I didn't think we were running out of this quick, but right now there's enough clothing. I don't think that needs to be brought. One thing someone mentioned to me, Aaron Rosenberg from our board mentioned to me today, and I think this could be something that maybe some people could take upon tonight. People have asked, what can we do? You're all familiar, there was a flood. That's what most of the damage came from, this surge. Nearly every single home, especially, probably this neighborhood alone, where do the children play? Think about it. They play in the basement. If you drive up and down the streets, and you go to each garbage pile, piles and piles of toys. And to us, maybe it's just a pile of junk. One father says to me today, it's not a pile of junk. These are the toys. This is an African present. This is my kid's birthday present. This is my allowance I saved up for who knows how long. They're gone. There's a psychological aspect, but these are children, have lost, and who in the world? Here, there are families, as you heard, that don't have bread and butter on their table, right? Toys obviously has to come second, but children, what do? They spend most of the time playing. So maybe one of the things that can be focused on is gathering new toys for these children to be given out. It's one thing that's a need. We haven't taken it yet, and I'm sure that people who've been working so hard, they can focus on that. I think it could be a tremendous thing that this community could take upon. I'm not telling people what to do, but that's a real thing that every single home needs. Children need toys. Children are children. Another thing we've worked on, we were hoping it wouldn't come to Shabbos again, and we're still hoping. You just walk in the room, some of you know, some of you in Philadelphia, who's been working tirelessly around the clock to make sure that the lecture gets restored. And hopefully it will. There's only so much that's in their power and our power. And this past Shabbos, there were, I think 60 or 70 homes in the Kew Gardens area and the Kew Garden Hills area that opened their homes for people to come stay there. And the thought was, next Shabbos we're not going to have to worry about it. We're still hoping. And obviously if the need arises again, we're going to turn to the Queens community to help us bring these people in and take them out of the area for Shabbos, because to spend Shabbos in the dark, any night in the dark, is not the way to live. Certainly not Shabbos Kodesh. And there are a few other services that are going on, the Shemus you heard about, and the people that are coming and doing laundry. It's beautiful. And if any of these things continue, the need will continue. We're going to stay in touch and make sure that we can turn to the community. I do believe there is still a need for people to help with the homes. We've got in the last few hours today, I guess some people, the children are going to try. Some of the yeshivas are opening up, and the parents have a chance to come back and focus on the homes. There's a tremendous amount of cleanup to do. And I know people have jobs, but if they're young, high school boys, I'm not sure what the school statuses are in all the neighborhoods. Obviously, Most neighbors that weren't here are fine. If people can come and be in touch with us in the morning and see if they can give a few hours to help these homes, it could be a tremendous service to the community. I want to mention 2 other points, and with that I'll give it over to Rabbi Kalish. As I mentioned before, one would think perhaps it's not shot that someone's having a difficult time in Parnassa. This was a hurricane. Why should I be embarrassed to ask for help? And like I said, we should never be tested. It's very, very difficult to ask for help. It's something sad I'm going to say, but I think it will bring the reality of what's going on in the street to all of you that are here. So in the last few days, in Bayswater and in Cedars, different people, I'm not that brave, have put together overnight patrols to go around the neighborhood. The police are stretched. They came in every single block. They've done a great job, but obviously when the electric is out, certain other people come out from the dark, and it's difficult and people are scared. So the patrols have been going around and doing a wonderful job and working with the police, alerting them to any possibility that maybe there's a looter or something, whatever it is. And I heard this over from the person directing the local patrol. Thursday night, obviously, I can say obviously, but like I said, unless you see it, the streets at nighttime, I'm sorry if I can just take a moment, it's darkness. It's frightening. Days are short. It's a very, very scary thing. One of the patrols, it wasn't so late at night, a wonderful fellow. He was never a patrol guy before. He said he wants to join in. He was driving down a block, for those of you who know, off of Reed's Lane. He drove by a block, it wasn't so late at night, I believe it was about 10:15 at night. And he drove by a car, and he thought it was idling. Okay, he was right. Went around the block again. He looked in the car, he couldn't see. And he came around the block the 3rd time. He said, something's wrong, there's someone sitting in the car. I have to go check out what's going on. He came out of the car. I'm not an emotional guy. I'm not trying to get anybody else. And he walks over to the car. And there's a father and a mother sitting in a Toyota Camry with 2 children in the back, the car running, with the heat on, feeding their children soup in the car. And you're probably sitting there thinking, here, New York, for Rockaway, beautiful chesed, Baruch Hashem, that situation is not going to repeat itself, but we were able to go and help them. It is a very difficult thing to ask for help. It just is. And these people were sitting in the car, using the warmth and the heat of the car, and feeding their children soup in the back of the car. Like Rabbi Ben said earlier, I think these stories are in 3rd world countries. And this was here, in the heart of Rockaway. People have lost it all. Heat is, for those who are living in the areas that don't have electric, the heat simply does not exist. For those that have generators, some could go into the heat, some can't go into the heat. One home last night, they put the generator on, and the carbon dioxide detector went off. Right back out of the house. It's living literally in times that you can't even imagine. I gave you over a sad story. I gave you over the facts that the ground is devastation, and the need is great. I feel it's important to end with a story that gave me a lot of chizuk, and those sitting here tonight, I believe, will give you chizuk as well. That when there's a will, there's a way, and sometimes you have to do what needs to be done. I'll end with this. And the first night of the storm was Monday night, and people started to realize, I'm sure many of you are here, we're all debating it back and forth, the emails the whole day. Will it be a storm? It won't be a storm. They're going to blow it. Why is Bloomberg making preparations? What's the story? Back and forth. It became very clear as the afternoon dragged along, there was going to be a very real storm. The surges, the waves, the water, and people started getting nervous. I'm not going to talk about the selfless dedication for Hatzalah, or the Hatzalah members were absolutely killing themselves, literally, to be out there in the streets and risking themselves to go to different places. And they tried, and they did an amazing job saving countless lives. The local fire departments, they were stretched with hours of wait. And who knows, there were boats going out in the streets. And there was a gentleman living in Rockaway. He lost his wife several years ago. Not the most physically well person. He wasn't aware that there was such a storm coming. He had his dinner. Night was coming. He's going to go to bed. He called his son-in-law about 8:45 at night. And those who were in the room now were involved. And he says, there's water coming in the apartment. Okay. So someone tells him, they know there's a hurricane. They didn't realize, maybe they didn't make the cheshbon. They didn't really, they thought he was going to die. Whatever it was. Okay, so they called the local precinct or whatever it was, see what they could do, and they said that the water on that particular block, again, real facts are important, this block was Jarvis Avenue. Those of you who know, it's right near Seagull Boulevard, nestled in a certain specific spot, and the water was rushing in a terrible way. And the police informed them that they can't come to that block where the water is very high and they're down wires. I'm not going to give a speech about electrical currents and dangers. It was obvious that they couldn't go there. In any case, they spoke with Hatzalah, and Hatzalah was weighing what they should do, because to risk the member's life is also not the safe thing to do to it. Okay, we made a phone call to this department, that department. In the meantime, 9:30, 10 o'clock, this gentleman, who's very beloved in the whole town, he calls up, he says, the water's past my ankles. What should I do? A phone call was placed to the Office of Emergency Management and this one, and they started saying, maybe we're going to get a boat out there. But if I explained to you what was going on in Farakaway and Bell Harbor and all these areas, it was a complete war zone, and there were 30 or 40 requests ahead of the gentleman, no matter what could be done. All these lives needed to be saved. By 10:30 at night, the gentleman calls his son-in-law. He says, the water's up to my thighs, I can't feel my legs. I went on, and obviously we didn't know what to do. Everyone was torn. Our office and the Hatzalah office, came risk of life, and literally there wasn't a soul there. I'm mentioning it so I can give, a few people decided that this can't happen. They have to do something. So they jumped, a couple of Hatzalah members, a couple people from the Achiezer office. We're going to see what we can do. They took an ambulance, they went down to the area of Jarvis, and they saw they can't go any further. So they went back and forth. At 1 o'clock in the morning, we didn't hear from the person anymore. Called, nothing. Not a word is exaggerated. But 4 people, again, decided we're going to do what we can. They hopped in their car, and they drove down to the corner of Hicksville Road and B6, and they realized they couldn't go any further. I know it's like a story of, maybe you hear these stories, you say, really? That's really what happened? So the reason why I tell you really what happened is because my wife wasn't too happy, but someone dragged me to go along. Leave your desk, stop answering phones, and come help us. So I don't deserve any credit. I went along with them, I'm not sure why. And as we were standing there, realizing we couldn't go no further, 2 young gentlemen, 19 and 20 years old, came driving by in one of those pickup trucks. The ones with the really big tires. You look at it and you say, wow, the car's this high. And they drove by. So someone grabbed the microphone, the Hatzalah microphone in the car, almost like this. And he yells, hey, stop, pull over. The guy thought, who knows what. They jumped out and they said to these guys, this is what's going on. Can you help us? We jumped in the car, these few gentlemen, and they went one way, they couldn't go the other way. They went to the 878 highway by Seagull Boulevard, the water was rushing down. They went on the other side of the highway, and when they finally got to the area, they decided this is as far as they're going to go. They're going to go get this gentleman. We walked, and the water, we thought, there'd be a little water. By the time we got to Jarvis Avenue, we were walking in water that was up to our waists. And we walked through it, and we came to the gentleman's house. We didn't know what we were expecting to find. The door was kicked open. We called. Just to give you an idea, as I end, of what, when you hear these, what does it really mean? Flooded, water damage. The house was floating. This man's entire life's belongings, and this was someone who saved all his little things. The house was floating. Literally, everything. Imagine seeing one's life, every safer, every phone book. Everyone has a phone book, right? With all your numbers, maybe these days not as much phone books, right? Scribbled in your things for years. It's just complete devastation. And finally, we found the gentleman, literally lying. We might have something without clothing. He wasn't completely, he was freezing. Literally, his phone had died. He thought that who knows what would happen to him. And Baruch Hashem, we were able to pick him up. We took a dining room chair, which is probably still out there somewhere with everything else, and we were able to carry him out with the Hatzalah ambulance waiting a few blocks away, and Baruch Hashem, he was able to be taken care of. There's always a nice story amongst all this devastation, and this man gave us a chizuk, and he as well. His home, obviously, as you heard, has been completely destroyed. I'm not going to go on, you've heard enough. And I just want to say that there's many homes like that, many people like that, and the people out here in the community, whether it's through your physical labor, through the checks you may write, may have written, whatever you have done, and whatever you continue to do, I believe will take gentlemen like this and so many others and families and help them take a little bit, try to pick themselves up, rebuild their lives, and be able to continue, maybe soon enough, a little bit of normalcy. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Have a good night.
Little change in the schedule. Assemblyman Phil Goldfeder represents Far Rockaway all the way through Breezy Point, I was just told. 80% of